Hello, everybody. I guess you could hear my mic being on. Um, this is Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where yesterday it was my birthday, and thanks everybody for birthday stuff. Even though Old Radio sent me some new stuff, here is something he sent me yesterday for my birthday, and then this. So thank you so much, Old Radios, for those. So I was very frustrated yesterday because I was dropping frames like crazy, and I rebooted everything, still having problems. Guess what the culprit was? It was Restream, the third-party company that I use, where I send the stream to that from OBS, and then it propagates it to different places. But over the years, the number of places I propagate it to have dwindled. I don't do Facebook anymore because Facebook destroyed my account. I don't do the Monoplex because that doesn't exist anymore. And so the only place I was doing it to was YouTube and Twitch. So I'm going to have to figure out Twitch because I wasn't getting a lot of viewers on Twitch, like one viewer. So I'll figure that out. But in the meantime, we're streaming directly to YouTube, and it seems to be doing okay. So let's go ahead and get started and watch some films that I was going to try to watch yesterday. This one is a Christian film. It's Dark Blossum. Enjoy.
This focus chart gives the projectionist an opportunity to adjust the sound level and focus the lens before the start of the picture. There will be 5 seconds of darkened screen before the actual picture begins.
Across the blue Pacific, and at the very heart of the Orient, lies a small country called, by those who know it best, the Orchid of the East, Thailand. With Red China, Vietnam, Laos, and India for near neighbors, the orchid is a vulnerable blossom, maintaining its delicate poise amid the clashing forces of the 20th century. The established customs of Thailand will not soon give way to the onslaught of modern life. The gentle beauty of the blossom is deceptive, concealing the great strength of its attachment to the vine of ancient tradition. The foundation of Thai culture lies in a religion that venerates the past and anticipates the future, but denies the present. The resulting culture is a static one, treading a cycle that can lead only back to itself in ceaseless repetition. Symbolic of this culture is the great Chao Phraya River in central Thailand called Menam, the mother of waters. The Chao Phraya River drains the entire central plain, which is Thailand's heartland, while flowing at a monotonously controlled depth, even in the flood season. The people of Thailand are like their river, in control of their emotions, passive, static. The pace of their living remains to a large extent constant, even in the 20th century. The tropical climate of the torrid zone gives them an abundance of food products. Fruits of all kinds grow along the waterways, and their daily diet is one of the best in the Orient. The rice of Thailand is considered the finest in the world, and the people enjoy rich, spicy dishes that are a delight even to Western tastes. So this is Thailand, once known as exotic Siam. Now the Siamese prefer to be called Thai, which means free. So on the surface, it would appear to be a land of gentle culture, abundant food, productive soil, and free people. But now we must take a closer look. In the heart of central Thailand, along the Chao Phraya in Chainat province, stands the Manoram Christian Hospital, a medical service center of the Overseas Missionary Fellowship. The nurses and doctors laboring here are seeking to provide medical care as prompted by the love of Christ and a concern for their fellow man. The governor of the province himself was present at the important ceremony of the hospital's official opening, because it was he who had urged Dr. Chris Maddox to settle at Manoram. With the dedication later of a new wing, the hospital's capacity was raised to 50 beds, with an outpatient department treating from 50 to 100 patients daily. The governor, with all the staff and nurses on hand, was a willing participant in the service as the sign was unveiled, inviting all to come to the new hospital's open arms of mercy. And they do come. They walk, ride bicycles, buses, and boats to register at the outpatient clinic, where they wait in line from early in the morning for their chance to see the doctor. Their ills include the well-known diseases of the tropics: tuberculosis, amoebic infections, malaria, and vitamin deficiencies, as well as the common emergencies and crises of life all over the world. Manoram Hospital is staffed with missionary personnel ably assisted by Thai nurses and technicians. The gentle Thai girls make excellent nurses who give what they can of aid and comfort to their fellow countrymen. And what they can't supply, the relatives sleeping down below often can. Technically, the hospital has all the familiar and necessary basic elements of any modern medical facility. Patients' records are carefully kept, and correct laboratory methods are strictly followed. Yes, it is an efficient, correct, and up-to-date institution, but it is so much more than that. Manoram is a refuge for the loneliest people on the face of the earth, the victims of one of mankind's most dread diseases. These people have leprosy. A wing of the hospital is devoted exclusively to their care and cure. And from this center, more than a score of smaller clinics reach out into the backcountry, treating thousands annually. Manoram has given them a sense of belonging and being loved through Christian fellowship and the preaching of the gospel of Jesus Christ. The hospital has a threefold purpose: to supplement the medical services of the province, to demonstrate by its example Christian ideals of service, and to share in the unfinished Christian task of evangelism and the building of the church. Members of the hospital staff add a plus factor to their technical skills as they seek to bring healing for the soul as well as the body. Through personal witness as well as regular ward services, they bring the consolation of faith with their words of comfort. The hospital's spiritual ministry has a far-reaching effect. The Thai church now has a hymn book in its own language and with indigenous Thai music because of the talents of this man, Sam Young. He was an actor and musician in the Thai theater before his conversion and has dedicated his abilities to Christ's service. At Manoram, he has also served as a laboratory technician. Sam Young's hymn book, published by Overseas Missionary Fellowship, has added a new dimension to the life of the Thai church. An outstanding literature program is also carried out through the publishing efforts of the Christian Witness Press. Thousands of tracts, study booklets, and other materials are created each year to extend and deepen the impact of the gospel upon Buddhist-dominated Thailand. Far more literature for Christian nurture and for evangelistic outreach is needed to meet Thailand's overwhelming spiritual hunger. A need it is not possible to understand without closer examination of Thailand's national religion. Buddha reigns supreme today as he has for 2,500 years. Thousands of shrines shelter his image with statues of gold, wood, stone, and bronze, covered with gold leaf and carved of precious stone. Temples to Buddha's footprint and Buddha's shadow. Tiny household shrines and sprawling temples built by kings. Time was when the king himself was a high priest. Today, even though the Constitution does not expressly command it, it is well understood that the king shall always be, at least outwardly, a devout worshiper of Buddha. Although it is certainly true that many persons only go through the motions of worship, yet the influence of Buddhism is universally felt. It is still expected that every family will give its sons to the saffron robe and begging bowl of the priesthood for at least 3 months, even though some now neglect the custom. It is into this setting the Christian church in Thailand strives to extend its testimony to the saving power of Christ. Through literature and personal evangelism, the witness spreads out from Manoram. Hospital staff personnel give weekends and their spare time joining scores of other Overseas Missionary Fellowship missionaries and national Christians throughout central Thailand in an all-out effort to make some impression on hearts that have given up hoping and minds taught never to think for themselves. Of course, among the children, some of the most gratifying results are obtained. Others are much more difficult to reach. The waterways provide access to multitudes of families living on the river. The Thai people are free to read any literature or accept any religion, but the intense pressure of social custom insists if you are a true son of Thailand, you are a Buddhist. Though much work has gone into Christian missions and the bread has been cast hopefully upon the waters for over a century, relatively few converts have been made. Neither success nor lack of success has ever been a proper determinant of Christian zeal. Christ commands, and in response to his call and the spiritual hunger of men, staff members travel the rough roads of the backcountry. After consulting with the head man of a village to gain his permission to hold a service, the work begins. The pattern for missionary labor under these conditions was first shown by the Apostle Paul, that by all means we might save some. Every possible method of communication is drafted into the operation. Old familiar teaching methods give way to modern communication devices, and the people wonder what's coming. But whatever the method, the end is always the same: to proclaim the unsearchable riches of Christ. During the rainy season from June to October, the boat Santisuk is the only means of travel. Where earlier they might have walked or ridden their bicycles, the launch wends its way upon the water in search of small, isolated groups of Christians or new untouched fields of labor. How beautiful are the feet of them that bring glad tidings, when the way is paved with blooming water hyacinths. And why not share the fun with a couple of hitchhikers along the way? Near dusk, the party reaches a small village. A tiny band of Christian believers gathers for prayer and Bible study. Inside, preparations are made to greet the villagers who will be attracted to Santisuk. A delegation of children is first. Other boats quickly pull alongside. She is eager to receive more information. Others, perhaps, are just curious to see the strangers. Two young men draw near to question or to argue a point. A group of monks, seeking, disputing, or just wondering what it's all about. A short distance away is a convenient cove where the launch stops. The crew takes advantage of the remaining light to set up equipment in order to bring the gospel once more to the waiting people. In the lengthening shadows of evening, the villagers gather to ask each other, who are these people? What do they offer us? Yes, who are these men and women at prayer? And those back at Monoram, who are they? They are missionaries and nationals, whose hearts God has touched, whose lives he is using to minister to the men, women, and children of central Thailand. As they continue their work, going out to families along the waterways, to the lonely and lost in the byways, among the thousands of lepers, with the sick and suffering, they represent you, your hands, your prayers, and your love at work in the troubled heart of the orchid of the East.
Jesus Christ. That is a missionary film. That's what it's all about. And so this would have been shown to churches during their fundraising campaigns, and talking about raising money and how the money that's raised for the church will go towards these missionary campaigns to go to lands that haven't found Jesus yet. So that's what that's all about. All right, let's see. This is another film from the same Church Films distribution library, which somehow ended up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then got sent to me when they didn't have room. This is Day's Work. Enjoy.
Two 2,000 years ago in Palestine. In the early morning in the village street, you could see the villagers getting ready for the day's work. This carpenter and his son are going to take some heavy pieces of wood to their shop. To make it easier for the donkey to carry the weight, the pieces of wood are slung across its back so that they balance on each side. Slowly they go down the street, greeting the neighbors. When they arrive at the shop, the boy opens the door. Meanwhile, the father unloads the donkey and talks to a friend who's passing by. The son brings out the tools, while the father sits down on a piece of wood which acts as a chair. Now the carpenter gets ready for the day's work. First he takes off his coat and folds it up to make a cushion to sit on. Then he takes an unfinished window frame, which must be completed. In those days, there were no factories. This carpenter made all the wooden things used in the village. Metal was expensive then, and wooden pins were used to fasten pieces of wood together instead of metal nails. The carpenter is teaching his trade to his son, but the boy has only got as far as working on a yoke that will be used to hold together a pair of oxen. Now a customer arrives. It is a farmer who wants to buy a yoke. A good yoke should be smooth where it rests on the neck of the beasts, and the farmer feels it carefully. He's not quite satisfied and asks to see another one. This one suits him better. The carpenter points to the sign above his shop, which means, "My yoke is easy." He is famous for making yokes. The farmer pays and goes off with his purchase. Very pleased with selling the yoke, the carpenter prepares to leave the shop. In those days, a workman saw the whole job through from beginning to end. He is going to take the finished window frame and a door frame which he's made to a new house and fit them into place. The frames are rather awkward to carry through the narrow streets. Houses in Palestine were built of stone and mud. Up above, the workmen are finishing the roof of this new house. The roof is being made of mud, which is spread over brushwood. "2,000 years ago, the inhabitants of Palestine were very fond of jokes. The workman has made up his mind to make the boy jump. And he does. Off he runs up the stairs to find the joker. But he forgets the roof is not finished, and his foot goes right through. However, it's easy enough to pull away the mud and brushwood and set him free again. This other workman is laying tiles in the wall that is being built round the roof of the house. Through these tiles, the rain will run off so that it won't flood the roof. These builders, like the carpenter, were skilled village workmen. But equally important to village life was the potter. Off a lump of clay, the potter cuts a piece with a wire. He judges just the right amount that he'll want to make a pot. He puts this on his wheel and starts the wheel going round with his foot. As the clump of clay goes round, he shapes it with his thumb. But he's not satisfied with how this pot is shaping, so he breaks it up on the wheel and begins again. His shop is in the village street, and he can watch the neighbors shopping as he works. When the pot is finished, he cuts it off the wheel with the length of wire. On the shelf at the back of the shop are a lot of pots, which he has already made that day. These will have to be baked to make them hard. His oven is at the back of the shop. Below is a charcoal fire, which he rakes out with a piece of wood. Broken pots lie round the oven. Above the fire is a door, and inside is a shelf. On this he puts the pots to be baked. He closes the door and rakes out the fire again to make the oven really hot. Now a customer arrives. He wants to buy a jug. He taps the jug to see if it's cracked, and he doesn't think it's quite sound. The potter agrees with him and offers him some others. He prefers this one. There's some bargaining over the price, but he likes this one very much. So in the end, he buys it. He takes it across the street to show the weaver in the shop opposite what a bargain he's got. And the potter starts work again. The children always linger at this shop to watch him at work. In the evening, as the workmen go home, the carpenter stops to talk over the day's news. But the carpenter's little daughter is on the lookout for him to come home, and she gets a ride. A very short one, but she's pleased. The evening meal for the family is nearly ready in the big stew pot over the fire, which is outside the house. "2,000 years ago, the Jews were very particular about their way of eating, and they all washed their hands carefully before a meal. The elder girl has got the jug and basin ready for her little sister and for her father and brother to wash when they come out of the house. They are washing by pouring the water over their hands. As the weather was usually warm, they didn't trouble to dry them on a towel. Now they sit down on the ground for the meal. The men and boys eat first, and the women and girls look on. To eat from the cooking pot, you took a piece of bread. After you had dipped it in a basin of olive oil, you used the bread as a spoon to get the stew from the cooking pot. With the evening meal, the father is drinking wine, which he pours out of a bottle made from the skin of an animal. But though they had no bottles of glass, they had drinking glasses. Soon the father tells his wife and daughters to sit down and join the meal too. The little girl has to be shown how to eat properly without taking hold of the stewing pot. When no one's looking, she tries a second time to pull the pot with both hands, and her mother shows her how to use the bread as a spoon. Now, as it's getting dark, the elder daughter lights a stick at the fire and takes it indoors to light the lamp. After supper, the family gathers round the fire, which is made of charcoal and is rather smoky. When they're all settled, the father begins to read aloud to them stories of the history of the Jews.
There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I shall not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Be strong and of a courage.
In summer, this reading would take place on the roof. No day ever ended without a Jewish family meeting together to read from the law and the prophets.
Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord, the watchman waketh but in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep.
It was kind of interesting. I mean, it was all. They don't really say where they're getting this information from, um, but it's an interesting day in the life. I think to kind of see the fact that there's some jokers in ancient Palestine. It's kind of interesting. All Right. So those were films from our collection, and we have we have a host. We are hosting Greg Pierce, who is from the Oregon Archive. He's going to be coming down with me to the Bastard Film Encounter tomorrow in Columbia, South Carolina, where I'm going to deliver a keynote speech and etc. And then they're going to watch a bunch of difficult bastard film and video. I'll sit back and watch. But anyway, so he'll be here next week too, and he brought down 200 films from his collection, some of which he's going to leave with me and donate to the collections, but most of them we're going to try to scan, which means that you're going to see a bunch of new stuff. And so one of the things that he scanned yesterday was Junior Prom, which I think is on the Prelinger site, but I'm excited to have a good scan of it. So enjoy Junior Prom.
This picture is on dating, the etiquette of dating. We are going to follow some of these students as they go on a date and see if their manners have anything to do with their fun. Everyone thinks that his own manners are all right, even if they aren't perfect, and that being correct only helps to spoil fun. So let us compare what these students do and don't do with what we think is right. Let's compare ourselves with Margaret, or with Helen, or with two fellows who are particularly interested in them. The Junior Prom, a semi-formal, is the best dance of the year and is announced early. Jerry is the shorter of the two. He believes that he who hesitates is lost, and that the time to ask for a date is now. Margaret, for her part, believes that a girl shouldn't make it difficult for a fellow to ask for a date. Fear of not being asked, or fear of being refused, can ruin our social lives if we let them. How do you act? Natural, at ease, graciously? Or are you shy? Like Frank, do you blurt out invitations? Actually, Helen is glad to receive the invitation, and Frank is surprised. Getting dates is not hard if one will act with a bit of courage and show himself to be sincere. A week before the prom, Jerry asks Margaret to help Frank by finding out what Helen intends to wear to the dance. But Frank isn't thinking far enough ahead to realize that he will soon be selecting a corsage for Helen, and that the corsage should harmonize with the color of the dress to be worn. He should also find out the type of corsage she prefers. So Jerry steers Margaret into a discussion of corsages. She recalls the ones she likes best: gardenias, spring flowers, an orchid once, camellias. She and Jerry have been dating for a long while. She appreciates the good taste he has shown in choosing flowers that suited her dress and complexion. The wearing of flowers on the wrist, the shoulder, or in the hair is a matter of preference. When Frank finally asks Helen about her preferences, she is glad to tell him that she likes all types of corsages and all flowers except gardenias. All the other preparations for their double date are also talked over. The night of the prom, Frank is glad that the dance is semi-formal and that the wearing of a tuxedo is optional. But even with a dark business suit, so Jerry insists, the color of the tie should be conservative. The socks should match the tie, not clash with it. We dress according to the occasion. A dignified occasion requires dignified clothes. As a matter of convention, men wear dark clothing at formal or semi-formal affairs. Thus, perhaps they allow the ladies, by contrast, to be more colorful in their dress. This tie may not seem conservative by your standards, but it seems to be the mildest that Frank owns. Perhaps for the next dance he will buy a quieter pattern, something that won't compete with the colors he expects the girl to be wearing. In that sense, he will be showing consideration for her, a gesture of friendliness. And that is what etiquette really is, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. Correctness in dress, like other matters of etiquette, is something which has to be learned. One needs to check on himself and inquire from those who is correct. Of course, women usually receive more training than men in the etiquette of dress because of its importance to their appearing always to best advantage. But girls have their problems just as fellows do, and what they think is in good taste may not be. Naturally, everyone thinks that what he or she likes should be considered correct. But most girls are inclined to overdress. Even the word of parents is not always accepted. Mother is called old-fashioned. But Margaret will take Helen's word for it that she is wearing too many ornaments. Simplicity is always the safest policy in ornamentation. Correctness of dress for an occasion includes not only the choice of gown and slippers, but the hairdo and the accessories, the jewelry, and, yes, the face makeup. The rules are simple, logical, and easy to remember, and they are very important. Frank doesn't look happy, and he isn't. But how much of his fearfulness is actually a lack of confidence in his manners? Whether he admits it to himself or not, his unsureness is painful and is already interfering with his enjoyment of the date. His wanting to blow the horn for Helen instead of going into the house to meet her parents and to escort her out is really not shyness, but a sign that his manners are weak. He hasn't taken the trouble to learn how to meet people easily. Helen tries to introduce him first to her mother, who has risen to shake hands with him. Ladies are always introduced first, and they may offer to shake hands or not as circumstances warrant. Frank forgot that he should present the corsage to Helen at home, so that she may put it on there if she prefers, rather than carrying it to the dance. Notice that Jerry acknowledges the introduction to Helen's mother with a nod, since she elected to remain seated and did not offer to shake hands. Frank shouldn't open the corsage box, but allow Helen that pleasure. Since Helen does not wish to put the flower on now, Frank should take care of it and see that it is not damaged. But give him credit for assisting Helen with her wrap. Helen's parents are glad to have met the boys with whom she is going out. And on the boys' part, meeting the parents is a minimal courtesy as well as a pleasure. Good manners never interfere with fun. They should be habits. And habits of correctness are just as easy to learn as bad habits. Correctness has the real advantage of allowing one always to be at ease. Jerry has been here often and is right at home. However, the ease with which he enters into a conversation is based on his genuine interest in other people and what they are thinking. Meanwhile, Frank is laboring to interest Helen in what is his, not her, chief interest. Sports. Margaret is careful not to keep Jerry waiting. She doesn't believe that keeping a fellow waiting a long time will allow her a more dramatic entrance and thus increase his interest. Rightly, she depends on the charm of her personality to hold his attention, not upon little games. So that Jerry feels he is dealing with her true self at all times. The phone call is from one of those fellows who wait until the very last minute to try making a date. Jerry can laugh at his would-be competitor. Margaret is gracious, of course, but brief. There is no excuse for last-minute requests for a date. No girl is flattered at the idea that she hadn't already received an invitation. Besides, a lot of the fun in dating is in the anticipation. And right now, they are well along in their fun. But Frank and Margaret have problems with conversation. Margaret has tried to talk about the dates she has had with other fellows. She meant only to be entertaining, but such topics irritate rather than interest. Perhaps, she and Frank hope, the dance will furnish better topics. Now they have arrived, and all the fun they hoped for lies ahead. Dances are intended for enjoyment, and the rules of etiquette which apply to dances are, again, customs which have grown out of one person's anticipating the wishes and feelings of others. A gentleman doesn't dash off just because he sees a friend and wants to say hello. He waits as his lady removes her wrap. He allows her time to pin on her corsage and powder a bit if she wishes. He saves her any feeling of being deserted or of possible embarrassment in entering the dance unescorted. Ladies expect and appreciate such courtesies, just as they enjoy the thoughtfulness shown in presenting them with a well-chosen corsage or enjoy being properly escorted. In meeting their hosts and hostesses, Margaret isn't always as aware as she should be of Jerry's attempts to escort her smoothly. And if Frank realized that his awkwardness, in contrast to Jerry, is due to his not being sure about introductions, he would learn the simple rules in a hurry. Introduce a man to a woman, a younger woman to an older woman, a younger man to an older man. The name of the person to whom deference is shown is always mentioned first. The person who is to be introduced waits until the introduction is made, and then waits for the other to offer his hand. Only a few friendly remarks are made. After greeting the sponsors, the first thing that Jerry sees to is that they select a rendezvous so that they will have a definite place during the evening for meeting after dances. Then they begin filling in their dance programs. When programs are filled out in advance, and then one or two couples don't attend after having exchanged dances, the programs are left with gaps that are hard to fill. So it is perhaps better to wait until dances can be exchanged with those friends who are present. Then the dances that have been promised can be written in. The purpose of the program is not to exclude others, but the opposite, to plan for exchanging as many dances as possible. In that way, everyone dances with his friends and makes new friends. It is not a mark of affection for a couple to try dancing the entire evening by themselves. For after a while, they tire of their exclusiveness, and then each one fears to hurt the other's feelings by wanting to dance with someone else. It is customary, though, for a couple to reserve for themselves the first and last dance. Frank forgets it and has to be straightened out. But now that they have gotten to dancing, let's hope that their troubles are over and that the evening will work out the way they have hoped. However, let us watch to see if their enjoyment depends in part, at least, on their manners. All that they ask is that they be allowed to talk and to dance, to be with their friends, and enjoy each other's company. No, Frank, hold the cup yourself as you fill it, then present it. Getting jealous? They're only enjoying themselves. Keep trying, Frank. Be sensible, Margaret. Frank, you're wrong. She hasn't lost interest in you. It's foolish to be jealous. It's your own fun you're spoiling. As the dance is drawing to a close, and it is time to say goodnight to the sponsors, everyone seems to have had a good time, except Frank. The dancing hasn't worked out as he and Margaret hoped, but Jerry and Helen are at fault too. They have allowed Frank and Margaret to become jealous. Of course, they aren't justified. Margaret made the mistake of trying to be too entertaining. Frank allowed his fears to make him wooden. People never like to blame themselves, so they blame others. All that either needs to do is to learn how to be natural and talk of what is interesting to the other person as well as to himself. Meanwhile, a good deal of the fun has gone out of the evening. Even though Margaret pretends that nothing has happened and all is well. Naturally, we all learn through experience, but that is usually the long and the hard way. We can learn much faster and save ourselves from being hurt so often if we realize that our social lives are filled with problems of etiquette, and that these must be studied. We must observe our own behavior, compare it with what is proper, and be certain that our habits are correct. Jerry's example in suggesting to Margaret a dish that she might like is one that Frank might follow. As he finally realizes, since it tells Helen in a nice way how much he can afford to spend. This saves embarrassment all around. At last, Jerry is becoming aware that Frank and Margaret are not having a good time. He doesn't ignore the situation, but brings the problem out into the open. Margaret and Frank are forced to admit their own foolishness. After all, Helen and Jerry had simply been at ease during the dance and enjoyed themselves. They hadn't been any the less interested in their partners. There was absolutely no reason for jealousy. You notice that Frank is becoming more alert. He orders for Helen correctly. And maybe we can hope that he has decided to turn over a new leaf. This way is more fun. The meal has been happy, and now that everyone is happy again, the date is moving along as it should. The mistakes that have been discovered won't be repeated, and those that haven't yet been discovered will come to light as they pay more attention to their manners. But already they have learned some valuable lessons, Frank particularly. He has learned to begin with that he shouldn't let his fears stop him from asking for the date in the first place, and that he should ask right away, not fret about it. He is glad now that he learned a little more about selecting a corsage and about how he should dress. He has still to learn how to be easy during introductions and in making ordinary conversations. But you saw that he was quick to pay the bill, including a 10% tip, and that he found it pleasant to help Helen with her wrap. On the way home, there are no problems. They are happy in knowing that this is just the beginning of happy times ahead. Jerry not only sees Margaret home, but opens the door for her. And then, well, they've been going steady for some time now, and there are some customs that are very enjoyable. But now Frank has a new problem. Should he try on a first date? He makes certain that he helps Helen from the car correctly. She waited properly for him to come around the car. He sees her to her door and thanks her for having gone out with him. And he remembers to open the door for her. No, he should not try to kiss her goodnight, not on a first date. But he does ask her for another date soon. Helen is quite happy to accept, so their first date is a definite success. Our ending is only a beginning of other dates to follow, of a new attitude toward manners.
That film is gold. It's gold in so many reasons. So great. And it's the voice of the Let's Make a Sandwich. It's the same guy.
Who's that? Is that the name of the film?
This is Greg Pierce, who's eating a poke bowl. In between, wow, it's very. You put a lot of soy sauce in there. I can smell it. Yeah. Anyways, so he's been here a couple of days, and we've scanned a bunch of stuff, and then we're gonna go to Bastards tomorrow, and then we're gonna come back, and then he's gonna scan even more stuff, and we're gonna watch a bunch of it. But yeah, I don't know the name of the narrator from a similar Mersey. I'm sure somebody does out in the world. But thanks for joining us today. Tomorrow will be pre-recorded. I'm not sure about the following days, but we'll be driving during the show. So thanks so much for all the birthday wishes, and for thank you, YouTube, for not flaking out. I guess I'm going to have to cancel my very expensive Restream subscription because they were lousy. And they've kind of bit me a couple of times in the past. So I'm not sad about not paying them anymore. So there you go. All right, so we will see you soon. Everybody take care. We love you guys so much. Bye.